Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are good and safe. Today in this video, we are going to read a very interesting story, The Sword in the Stone. Chapter number 6 of our English MCB book, The English Coach. This story is about King Arthur. The legend of King Arthur, a 5th century warrior king, is a fascinating one and is a part of English folklore and myth. However, the incidents in Arthur's story are merely composed of literary invention, and his historical existence is still debated and disputed by modern historians. Though King Arthur was a central figure in English folklore, he became known outside the shores of England through the popularity of Geoffrey of Monmouth's imaginative 12th century book on the history of British kings. Arthurian literature thrived during the Middle Ages, and in the 21st century, the legend lives on, not only in literature but also in adaptations for theatre, film, television, comics, and other media. Now let's start reading this wonderful story. Long ago, England was ruled by a wise, just king. It was a prosperous time, and the people lived well. King Arthur chose the famous Merlin, who could see into the future, to be his court magician. Merlin knew that the good days were not going to last. Soon, King Arthur and the Queen Guinevere had a baby son. At the celebrations of the royal birth, Merlin took the king aside. He said, "Sire, there is something you must know. Soon great darkness will fall over this land. Your child is in great danger. Let me take the baby far away and keep him safe." "Merlin," said the king in surprise, "though you are a great magician and my friend, I cannot let anyone take our child away." Sadly, the queen died shortly after this, and King Arthur was killed in battle. Merlin swept into the castle and took the child away. For years, there was no king to rule or make laws. The nobles fought to be king. Robbers roamed the streets of London. The people of England lived in fear. Yet far away, in a quiet place, a good knight, Sir Ector, lived peacefully with his 2 sons. His first son was named Kay. His younger son, Arthur, had been adopted as a baby. Years before, a stranger had come to Sir Ector with a baby and had asked if Sir Ector would raise the child. The old knight was glad to get a second child. He named the baby Arthur and raised the child as his own. When Arthur was 10 years old, the same stranger returned to Sir Ector's home. He could read and write, and so Sir Ector hired him to teach his 2 sons. Kay was restless and soon stopped his lessons. But Arthur listened intently and was learned everything. This stranger was Merlin the magician. Merlin sat with Arthur for hours and taught him about the world. Arthur was a thin lad, not strong like his big brother Kay. Merlin told Arthur not to worry about that. He said what mattered most was to have a big, strong heart. When Merlin saw how the foxes and deer followed Arthur, he knew that the boy had a very big, strong heart. By the time Arthur was 16, his brother Kay had become a knight. He was called Sir Kay. Arthur loved to serve his brother as a squire. He took great care of his brother's tunic and helmet, spears, and lances. One day during lesson time, Merlin suddenly stood up. "Arthur, there's something I must do." "I must go now," said Merlin. Late that night, Merlin, the magician, went to the center of London's market square. He held both his arms high and pointed his wand to the stars. The next morning at dawn, people find a strange block of white marble standing in the middle of the town square. Resting on the block was a very large stone. At the top of the stone, there was a golden sword handle and a few inches of the blade shining in the sun. Yet, this was most odd. The rest of the blade was buried deep into the stone. None of this had been there the day before. These words could be seen on top of the blade. Whoever pulls out this sword from this stone is the true king of England. As soon as the people knew about this message, men jumped onto that white marble block. One after another, they yanked the sword. Each tried and tried, but the sword stuck fast. It would not move. Finally, the Duke of Cornwall said, "Let a tournament be held 1 month from today. Knights from everywhere in England are invited to come to try pull out this sword. There will be a grand feast for all." The people cheered. News of the tournament travelled fast to every corner of the land. Finally, word got to Sir Kay in Sir Ector's faraway home. "Arthur," he called out. Arthur ran to his brother. "We must set out at once to the tournament in London," said Kay. Arthur was excited. He had never been more than a few miles from home. He would be the best squire ever for his brother. Sir Ector and his 2 sons rode through London on their way to the tournament. In the market square, Arthur saw something shiny glinting in the sun. "That sword looks like it goes right into that stone," said Arthur. "But that is impossible." He noticed guards standing around the stone. The father and his 2 sons reached the tournament. Sir Kay ran off to register. As Sir Ector greeted his noble friend, Arthur sat in their tent. A bugle sounded. The tournament was about to begin. "Get my sword," demanded Kay. "Right away," said Arthur, but he could not find Kay's sword. Arthur looked around in panic. Kay's spear, battle axe, and dagger were there, but no sword. "Kay," he said, "how about a battle axe?" "Arthur," I said, "give me my sword." Arthur ran back into the tent. He searched through all the weapons there. The sword was missing. Then Arthur had an idea. He rode back to the market square swiftly. The guards were no longer there. They had gone to watch the tournament. Arthur leapt onto the marble block. He grabbed the sword handle. It moved a little. Then, with one huge tug, Arthur pulled the sword out of the stone. Arthur fell back, but held the sword tightly. "I will bring it right back," Arthur muttered before he raced back to his brother. He handed the sword to his brother. Kay stared at the sword. "Oh," he said in surprise. "What is it?" said Arthur. Kay vanished. Soon after, Arthur heard his brother's voice outside the tent. "Father, I have something to show you." Kay and his father stepped inside the tent. "Look," said Kay. He pointed to the sword. Sir Ector's face turned white. "Kay," he said, "where did you get this sword?" "It is mine," said Kay proudly. "Kay," said the father sternly, "I will ask you again. Where did you get this sword?" "From Arthur," Kay said softly. "He lost my sword. Somehow he got this one." "Arthur!" The father turned to his younger son. "How did you come by this sword?" "I am sorry," said Arthur. "Father, I will put it back right away. I only meant to borrow it when I pulled it from the stone." "You must take us to where you found this sword at once." The 3 of them rushed to the market square. Arthur climbed up onto the marble block. "It came from here," he said. He lifted the sword over his head. Then he dropped the blade back into the stone. "I still need a sword," said Sir Kay. He jumped up onto the marble block and grabbed the hilt of the sword. He pulled hard. The sword did not move. Kay shouted to Arthur, "What did you do to it?" "Nothing," said the lad. "You must have done something," yelled Sir Kay. "Hush," said the father. "It is better if no one sees or hears us." But it was too late. A crowd had already gathered. "Hey, did you pull that sword out of the stone?" someone called out. "Yes," said Arthur, "I did." "Do it again," someone shouted from the crowd. Arthur put his hands around the golden handle. With one tug, the blade slid out. "Who are you?" called the another voice. "What is your name?" "Arthur," said the lad. "Wait a minute. Put that sword back." A tall knight pushed forward from the crowd. Anyone can pull it out once it's been pulled. Go ahead, put it back, son, said the Duke of Cornwall, the man who had called for the tournament. Arthur slipped the blade back into the stone easily. Let me try now, said the tall knight. He jumped up and grabbed the handle of the sword. But pull and tug as he might, the sword did not budge. Another knight tried, then another, but not a single knight could move the sword. Let Arthur try now, said the Duke of Cornwall. Arthur stepped up to the stone again. In one motion, he freed the sword. This time, he held it high above his head as the crowd watched in amazement. Then someone called out, "He must be our new king." "Stop!" shouted the tall knight. "Do you really think this skinny boy should rule over all of us?" "Yes," said a voice. Everyone turned around. It was Merlin, the magician. "The sword has told us this young man is to be the next king of England. And there is something else." A hush fell on the crowd. "This lad," said Merlin, pointing to Arthur, "is the true child of King Arthur. He is the missing baby." "Hail, King Arthur!" called someone from the crowd. Everyone cheered. At last, a king had been chosen. A new day had dawned for England. This was all about this wonderful story, The Sword in the Stone. I hope you all have liked it. Thank you.